What up, guys? We're here in Atlanta. We're just heading into Estrellita to meet Hope, the founder of Filipino Food ATL and also the owner of the restaurant. She's gonna let us try some of her food and see what's poppin'. Let's go. Oh, she's right here. Oh, hey, Hope.
Hi, there you guys are. Welcome to Estrellita.
Hope, she owns Estrellita and also the founder of Filipino Food ATL.
Indeed. Come on in.
So the first question is, why did you start Filipino Food ATL and what is your mission?
Filipino Food ATL, well, what I noticed was when I first got here, I opened up a restaurant, Estrellita, here in Grant Park, downtown Atlanta. And I was trying to find places to network. And I found an online group on Facebook called Atlanta Pinoy. And at the time when we opened, it was 2020, and the political environment was so heated. Wow. But I really just kind of wanted to see who was out there that was selling food, so we can go out there and see what everybody else was doing. And so what I did was I was like, you know what, the thread is just getting kind of overwhelmed with other things that people really couldn't find Filipino food in that thread. So I decided to start Filipino Food ATL Facebook group and make it really Filipino food focused and festival focused. So it gave everybody a platform to find their Filipino food that they miss and love from the Philippines, but also find the festivities that were serving Filipino food and find their favorite pop-ups around Atlanta. Wow. So that became a focused group. I actually just became a nonprofit this year.
Okay.
And the mission is to further Filipino culture and cuisine through education, food, making connections, and networking. As I said before, food is what binds us in our culture. Yeah. And to kind of anchor the community with these various restaurants in the area is super important. And so that's kind of where it all began. I did actually have an encounter with one of the elders. Okay. They mentioned that if we weren't integrated into the community, we probably wouldn't survive, more like gatekeepers. And I was like, wow, it was kind of scary. And then I was like, but why would he say that to me? You know what I mean?
Filipino elders.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, okay, so do I need to really start networking? I really need to start meeting the people, because I guess there wasn't a huge Filipino population at one point. And so a lot of people are starting to move here. I think that it's increasing, I want to say over the past 4 years, 15%. Filipinos are coming to the city, and the population has increased 15% in that amount of time. So a lot of Filipinos are moving here. But what really, it became like a challenge to me. I was like, okay, so do I want this business to thrive on just what the community that's here? Or do I need to start expanding the reaches beyond our own community? So at that point, I determined it's going to be very important for my tableside education here at the restaurant to be on point, because we have to start teaching other cultures about our food in order for them to love them. So the mission for Filipino Food ATL then became teaching outside of the community about the culture, so that they come here, learn about the culture and the food, and then we grow beyond just the community. Yes. So at some point, if we create momentum outside of our own community, more people of all ethnicities, of all cultures will come here, they'll seek Filipino food, not just here, but to any restaurant that opens up. So my goal is that if in fact someone wants to come here and open up a restaurant or start their own pop-up because they have aspirations to share their food and culture with the world, as soon as they open, people will flock to them because they already know what Filipino food is. So that was kind of the groundwork that I was hoping to do with Filipino Food ATL.
From Facebook and now to a nonprofit organization.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very impressive. Yes. How has Filipino Food ATL helped connect local Filipino chefs, bakers, and food entrepreneurs?
Yeah. So the thread is amazing. If you go on there, people post latest news for Filipino food, but a lot of the new restaurants that have opened up, older restaurants that have opened up, even pop-ups, they're constantly posting there so that the community can find them. And then it becomes the law of inertia, right? Like a body in motion stays in motion. So the community then goes to all of these festivals, and people are like, okay, well, where is this crowd moving to? Or where are they ushering to? And then it creates momentum in the community, and people start to become intrigued if they start to see, you know, Filipino fests here, Philippines Fest in Decatur, or you know, we had a Filipino food fest at Waller's Coffee Shop back in 2021 or 2022. So it's a foundation for everyone to kind of go there and figure out what's the latest happenings within the food community and community. All of the galas post there, like the Kalayaan event that we have every year, they'll post their stuff there.
Wow.
So, you know, when I first came here, I was like, I want to find longanisa, because at some point I aspire to make longanisa. And there was someone that was making vegan longanisa, like I want to say in Peachtree Corners or somewhere really far away. We hooked it over there, and we like did this like deal in the parking lot, like, hey, I'll give you this for your longanisa. But that still happened, and it's okay for that. But like I said, now we have several pop-ups. You have Rice Up. You had Adobo ATL. He actually had a restaurant in Decatur. He was one of the ones that kind of started around the 2018 era, when Filipino food started to become really trendy in Atlanta. But yeah, it's the bakers especially. Like, we held several pop-ups here when we first opened, because we didn't just want to promote the food that we had. We wanted to show the variety of foods that our culture brings to the table. It could be the halo halo. We can't serve a halo halo in our small space. But we also have, like, you know, Pri Lola's Bake Shop. She ended up moving to Seattle, but she is also one of those people that were really pushing the Filipino culture forward. Seven Fingers Baked Goods, he is another Filipino baker in the area. And like I said, they all go to Filipino Food ATL. They post their stuff. People, you know, hear about it, learn about it. People talk about it. And it's not necessarily just Filipino Food ATL. It's the thread that binds us all. To know about each other allows us to talk about the others from our heart.
Yes.
You know, and if we build a family here, food culture-wise, community-wise, it just feels natural to just say, hey, you know, my friend over here is maybe over here. Opal Coffee is just down the street. He doesn't serve Filipino coffee, but his business is down the street. You know, Shirley Hughes, she's a mestiza Filipino baker. She's just down the street. She's been in the community doing her charity work. All of that is very, very important. And it's not just about food, really. It's about connecting people. That's the most important part. It's about connecting the people. So yeah, it's pretty much that.
What's one event you've organized that you feel made a huge impact on the community?
One of the events that made a huge impact on the community, and it's still kind of reverberating in the community as we speak, is last year through another nonprofit that I work for, La Dame Escoffier, whose mission is to support women in culinary, because, you know, the culinary industry is always kind of a male-dominated industry. So we really support those women that are interested in the women that are interested in coming into this space that's usually dominated by our male counterparts. Last year we actually hosted a boodle fight, a Kamayan feast, and we sold tickets. We raised a little bit of funds, and everyone kind of learns about what a Kamayan feast is. And we raised some money, and now that money will go towards the Filipino community in some way, whether it's a student that wants to enter the culinary space, or a nonprofit that is working to, again, all the nonprofits that we have in Atlanta are working to further the community and the awareness of our culture. So any one of those particular community organizations can apply for this grant. So there's money out there for them to support their mission and their work that they do. So not only did we bring Filipinos in the sixth year, there's another fundraising event that happened last year, the Global Culinary Initiative Boodle Fight, that is still kind of in effect finding its space to push this community forward. So we have a couple of different arms and avenues that are working for us this year.
How do you decide which businesses or stories to spotlight through Filipino Food ATL?
I feel like there's a broader umbrella there. It's not just going to be the Filipino bakers or the Filipino food vendors or other restaurants. I think it's important to highlight the artists.
Exactly.
Especially in this generation coming up. I feel like a lot of, for me, when I think about entering a space like the restaurant industry, that isn't always, the impression out there could be, oh, it's blue collar work. It's not, you're not doing engineer work. You're not a nurse. You're not a doctor. Like it's not your atypical career path for your Filipino parent.
Yes.
It does require a lot of creativity to springboard your vision and actually execute that. So for me, I do have a big heart for the artists that do their own thing and pave their own way and make their own path and believe in themselves enough to say, hey, this might not be what is expected of me, but it's what I want to do. And that to me is, I want to empower that, the creative side, the artistry, like, being a baker, there's so much art in that too. Being a chef, there's art in that as well.
Yes.
But
it's called culinary art.
That's why it's called culinary arts. And so for me, all of that is like the art part of culinary art is kind of where my space is where my heart is to feature the other things that make Filipino culture abstract and more contemporary and now becoming more progressive. Because when I was growing up, you almost hit that ceiling or you were almost ashamed, right? That you're not doing the atypical thing that your parents expected you to do. So I think so how do I pick my people that I would feature on Filipino Food ATL? I feel like there's no boundaries. Filipino Food ATL's mission is to not only feature the cuisine, but also the community and the culture. So those community, culture, and cuisine, all three of those. So it can be any derivative of that I would feature.
How has Atlanta's reception to Filipino cuisine changed since you began?
I feel like there was a rush of momentum and interest in the Filipino cuisine. But I feel like there were people that laid the foundation long before the 2018 features in Atlanta magazine or in Eater Atlanta. I feel like there was a lot of pioneering that happened since 2011. And those people are like Claire's Kitchen, Egg Roll and ATL. You had Kuya's that was already here, Antonio Family Foods, Syrup Atlanta, who's also now Balilicious, El Nicolarich. Those people were in the underground doing the work, and they always were well received. But in 2018, there was a huge shift. We came on the scene, another restaurant came on the scene, or another pop-up came on the scene. And really by having two groups of people focused on the same mission, which is bring more awareness to an underrepresented culture and cuisine, it just became like a rapid spiral of curiosity in our culture. So I think that everything increased tenfold around 2018. Then you had the pandemic in 2020 that kind of shut everything down. But I think that things are starting to, around 2021, 2022, things were starting to ramp up. And then the Michelin Guide ended up coming here in 2023. And at that point, we had a Filipino restaurant that was recommended, and then we were able to receive a Michelin Bib Gourmand. And so right at that point, you're looking at lateral visibility, a platform that's world-renowned, that is now sees that Atlanta is a hub for Filipino culture and cuisine. And so I would say that now is a great time for anyone that's entering the space to start laying their, paving their way. I know that before I opened my restaurant, I started my Instagram 2 years before. Okay. Just trying to take pictures at home. So if you're on the 2-year plan, right now is a great time, because I think that with the Michelin recognition for these various chefs is really kind of putting eyes on Atlanta. And people do travel far and wide to come to this little restaurant. I had somebody come from Montana, and I was like, Montana, how did you find us? Oh no, I looked for Filipino food. And that's the thing, is that Filipino food right now in the United States is so iconic. Not every city has a Filipino restaurant. So when you come across a major city, or you go into a place and you look for Filipino food, that's what I do. I'm like, who's slinging Filipino food in this town? Yeah. Yeah, you go there and you're like, I want to know, I want to support, I want to, show them hey, this is, you have people looking for you. Mm-hmm. And so being recognized in the Michelin Guide has been huge. I think there are 12 restaurants, 12 Filipino restaurants in total that are featured in the Michelin Guide. There are 5 Bib Gourmands globally. I think there's one in Toronto. I think there's one I think there might be one in Montreal, definitely one in California. There's one, we're Atlanta. We're the only one on the East Coast.
Wow.
Purple Yam in Brooklyn closed. So they, I think they had a bib at one point. And then you have 2 stars, one in Chicago, one in Orlando. And the other Bib Gourmand, I think, is in London. So having that kind of global notoriety is really, people are starting to learn about it. People are like, oh, there's a cuisine out there that we haven't even explored. There's a whole culture, a whole story that we need to dive into. And that's why tableside education at this restaurant is so important. And being as small in stature that we are at Estrellita, it lends itself to that tableside intimate conversation. Oh, have you ever had Filipino food before? We were colonized by the Spaniards for 333 years. With them, they brought their tomatoes, potatoes, and garlic. We were a part of the Viceroyalty of New Spain, where they went from, Guam to Mexico to Florida, back to the Philippines, and they traded all of those fruits. And that's how we all have the same fruits around the equator. Mm-hmm. So being able to tell the history of Filipino food in such an intimate atmosphere has helped lend itself to intriguing people so that they tell the story to their friend. Oh my God, did you know that the Filipinos, their food is almost like, South American Cuban cuisine? They have lechon, they have bistec, like who would have known? Afritada from Spain. Mm-hmm. It's important. Yeah, easy things for people to understand. And what's crazy is that, and I always say, before Anthony Bourdain, people looked at our cuisine as being more extreme. Oh my gosh, they only eat balut. That's all they eat is. And so we had a big fight. Like, we were those people this indigenous culture, this uncivilized culture that ate duck embryos, and that's kind of what the world extreme food eating. But they didn't realize that Spaniards colonized us, and for 333 years they made culinary master chefs in the region of Pampanga, and then everything kind of branched out from there. Mm-hmm. So it's very important to tell those stories and make sure that everyone knows that.
What role do collaborations play in growing the Filipino food community here? Oh
my gosh, it's so important. It's so very important. I think that when it comes to the law of inertia or creating any kind of momentum, the bodies in motion stay in motion, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's important for us to unite, right? Community, to unite and help promote each other. When we first opened, we featured, Three Lola's Bake Shop, Seven Fingers did a pop-up here, Claire's Kitchen did a pop-up, and all of these different bakers were offering in baked goods. I don't know if you met Isabel Fiorella. She was at our little meet and greet. And then you have the ones that kind of they tested the waters and then they moved on. But collaborating is at the core of Kapwa, at the core of Bayanihan, me and Shirley, we collaborate. She doesn't specialize in Filipino desserts. She has implemented a lot of ube since her and I have been forging our friendship and alliances and moving this stuff forward. She'll tell you, she's like, it wasn't until you got here that I was proud to hang that Filipino flag, and she's like, and then once I was like, oh, finally there's a restaurant that I believe has that flavor that I was looking for, because you have these little mom and pops, tudos. Sometimes they're different. And she was like, but you guys really created a space that's more contemporary, more modern. And she hangs her flag with pride. So Shirley and I have collaborated on several things, including our nonprofit and our charitable endeavors. And so I would say collaborating with people is probably 90% of the work. Figuring out, what are you doing? How can I support you?
Exactly.
Is there something that I can do to shine a spotlight on you? Even for me, when we had a couple of different situations where there were people that needed, we actually had a GoFundMe during the pandemic. But there were people that, one time there was a girl, Valerie Pableo, who got hit by a car. She was in the service industry. And I was like, you know what? I need to use my platform to raise funds for her medical bills because her insurance might not cover this. So being able to use your platform to usher people and create a momentum that kind of comes together and says, hey, we're going to help her out. Look, this person got hurt. Like, let's make sure she's cool. Let's make sure that that's the last thing her parents worry about is the money that's tied to her recovery. So for me, using my platform for those things that give back to the community has always been paramount. So collaborating, once you start weaving, right, with other people that have their own following, you know, you're sharing spaces with each other. You're sharing each other's clientele. It only makes the community grow stronger. You know, it only makes the community go stronger. So like I said, I think that collaborating with other artists, culinary artists, chefs, bakers, is probably 90% of the work, because at that point, you know, you can usher in a line and push the community and culture forward. And that's the biggest goal, is for people to know about the Filipino culture. Yeah.
Through collaborating to expand the network.
Exactly, and visibility. And that's kind of another reason why I was so excited that you guys were going to come into town, is because, like I said, we can recycle the community in Atlanta over and over again, and we can have festivals and have the same people attend them. And every year you might have a 4% increase in Filipino people, the population, or a 2% increase in the population. But that's not enough to sustain that next person that wants to come in here and open up their own restaurant or their own bakery. So what we have to do is we have to create the momentum outside of the circle of comfort, right? And so when we finally decided that you guys would come into Atlanta, I was like, this is exactly what my mission is to create visibility beyond just what's here, so that people know that we are here.
Yes.
I mean, even Carlos was like, I didn't even realize there were Filipinos in Atlanta. Hello, you know, like here we are. So it's important. And I guess I feel like for every state or city that you guys go to, you're going to find the same conversation. It's going to be like, hey, you know, people don't know that we're here, but you guys are doing the good work. You're allowing us to expand our scope beyond what the community. It's almost like, you know, you can put a shark in a fish tank and it'll only grow as big as its environment.
Exactly.
Right? It'll always say a certain size if he's in a fish tank. If you put him in a bigger fish tank, he's going to grow to be that big. So, I mean, it's just known. So if you put a shark in a bigger fish tank, it's going to adapt.
Exactly.
Eyes are going to be on it. The visibility is going to grow. And so that's why I think that being a part of this whole project, there was no way I was not going to get you guys here. Like, I wasn't going to let that happen. There were certain things that couldn't happen. Grants that I wasn't able to obtain. But I was like, I absolutely need to make this happen. And I mean, that's what community is all about. It's the bayanihan, right? You're like, okay, that avenue, that door closed, it doesn't matter. We got to lift this up some other way.
How do you want to see the Filipino community continuously rise in Atlanta?
I think that if there's something inside of you that has a passion for food, culture, art, I think that it's important to empower that. How can we rise? I think by supporting every single Filipino's vision for what their passion is. Your passion might not always be aligned with what your parents thought.
Exactly.
And it's okay to step outside your comfort zone, because when you step outside of your comfort zone, that's where the magic happens. You start to realize what you're truly capable of when you step outside of that comfort zone. How do I feel Atlanta should rise within the community? I would say keep those dreams alive. Manifest what's in your heart, regardless of what anyone says. Find your tribe, because those are the people that are going to empower you to realize your vision and your dreams. So I hope that the work that we do at Filipino Food ATL creates so much awareness around the culture and community that, as I said, anyone can enter this space and everyone will flock to it. Start to realize what the different regions are about, because, you know, Filipino cuisine it's not just one thing. It's not just, you know, tomatoes and basil with the Italians, you know, even though every grandma has their own sauce. It's so hyper regional that you can go to another Filipino restaurant and we might not serve the same thing on the same menu. So start to dive into the culture, so much so that you're starting to notice the differences and appreciate that this person over here makes this different than this person. Find your favorites amongst them all. I would love to just see more artists out there, like, you know, rising to the occasion or being featured and spotlighted. I think Atlanta has good bones for it, because there's a lot of art here. There's a lot of passion. It's a very activist heart here. So like, you know, when you think about our survival, you know, when we rose up against the Spaniards,
Yeah.
you know, it took a lot of heart to make that decision that we're going to do that. So that whole spirit is here in Atlanta. You know, the civil rights movement was here. So that that fight is here. The creativeness is here. The culture is here. I would say keep the momentum.
Where do you see and how do you see the Filipino Atlanta community in the next 5 years?
I see a caravan of people, like a Woodstock, like people coming for this festival that was created by Filipinos in the 60s and in collaboration with Filipino Food ATL. So in 5 years, I feel like the Filipino community here would have laid so much groundwork in sharing our culture with the locals that like a national news organization, maybe like Filipinos in the 60s, can collaborate and then basically create a caravan of people converging on the city. Atlanta is a huge, huge festival city, huge. And it would be really, really, really nice to see people come here from everywhere and celebrate the art, the music, the culture. You guys met a lot of the Doja Flan members the other day. With those young men and women bridging the gap between the older community and the younger community, I feel like you are gonna see amazing things come out of this community. I feel like that would be a better question for Tiffany Garnas of GA Flan, but with people like her feeling empowered to help the generation coming up, I feel like the sky's the limit. I feel like we're gonna be breaking glass ceilings. I
Might
feel
not
like
even take 5 years.
I know. I feel like, you know, New York has a good hub of Filipino restaurants that are in the area between Manhattan, Queens, and Jersey City. But I feel like we have potential to be that same. Right now, actually, all of our Filipino restaurants are strategically placed. One is in the north, one is in downtown, and the other one is to the south. So we're all kind of within equal distance of each other. So we're smart. You know, we're kind of covering all the angles. I could see now us moving east and west from here. Maybe northeast, you know, southwest. I would say in 5 years, I hope we double the restaurants. You know, it's like, it's some people are like, why would you want anybody to, you know, come into your space? Because you're a restaurant owner, it's your competition.
Yeah.
If we cultivate awareness, like I said, outside of the community, there will be enough of it to go around.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? We won't cannibalize ourselves. So I hope that within 5 years, there are 3 more restaurants.
Okay.
And that the festivals that everyone keeps recycling the current members or the current community people. Oh, these festivals aren't as lucrative because everyone's going to so many festivals a year. I hope that at some point those festivals are widely attended, get national attention beyond state lines, and our brothers and sisters in the South, our southern touching states, start to converge on Atlanta because music festivals, that's what they do. They converge on Atlanta. And in the South, Atlanta is a pioneer. So I think that we have the bones and the foundation. I believe we're building the structure as we speak to be able to double what we're already doing with awareness. So that's kind of where I think that we'll be in 5 years, I hope.
I think it'll take less than 5 years, to be honest with you.
Thanks.
The amount of momentum and passion shouldn't take 5 years.
I know. There are a lot of people that are very passionate.
Yeah. What advice would you give to young Filipino food entrepreneurs just starting out?
Do your research, right?
Do your research.
Do your research. Spend time in a kitchen. If you can enter a space and do an internship, if Filipino food is what you want to do, you know, put yourself in that space. You know, work the front of the house, move your way to the back of the house, or work in the back of the house, move your way to the front of the house. There is not one position in this restaurant that I won't do at any given moment. Some of my most peaceful moments are found in the dish pit, where I don't have to think of anything. The hustle and bustle that's going on out here in the dining room, being in that dish pit, just doing mindless work, the hustle, making sure that all the glasses are turning and that we have enough glasses to fill the front of the house again for every turn. Put yourself in the space to realize what you want. If you want to enter this space, become a part of a team that is currently in it, and you know, learn, master it. You know, be intuitive. Like, don't hesitate. I mean, if you aspire to be a restaurateur, get in there, get into the kitchen, and don't be afraid.
Now, for the last question, what's your long-term dream for Filipino food ATL?
well, number one, of course, raising so much awareness in the culture and cuisine, but at some point, raising enough funds to be able to offer people that are entering the food space, the culinary space, to be able to give them scholarships. Because, you know, you never know. People that enter the restaurant space, some of it comes from hardship. You know, some of it comes from, hey, my mom was a single parent. She had to work 3 jobs. You know, when I was 16, I had to go to work. I actually worked at a Pizza Hut. Some people enter this space for their own reasons. I would love to be able to give back to a community or to those people that aren't as privileged, but find that cooking the food of their ancestors and heritage cooking is important to them. Sharing their culture with the world is important to them. So at some point, I hope that I am able to give scholarships, huge scholarships to Filipinos that find themselves in this space. And you know, what's funny is because, you know, it's like Walter, he has degrees. And he ended up in this space, right? You know, he worked on Wall Street and he ended up in this space. A lot of people have a passion. Even like attorneys are like, I've always wanted to own a restaurant. I would say at some point, I would love to be able to give scholarships annually to people that are looking to share this culture with everyone. Yeah.
Because you're right. A lot of people deep inside passionate about the culinary arts and other arts, they kind of cannot go that way because they don't have money. They just go to another industry that guarantees money and they forget about the entire art side of themselves.
Right. And that's the thing is like, if you feel passionate about sharing your food with the world, I think that's like, hone that at home, come into the restaurant space twice a week and hone your skills. Like, you know, I've had people so many times say, I haven't tasted this flavor since, you know, my mom or my dad passed, you know? And to be able to bring that nostalgia back to them, like to me, that's the stuff that really pulls at my heartstrings is when you're able to bring somebody to a place in their life where they remember their mom, their dad, their tita, their grandma, their Lola, their Lolo, you know, like that's powerful. That's home, that's family.
Absolutely.
I get nervous that with all of this AI and technology that we won't at some point have people that are interested in culinary arts. Because everyone in this era is always attached to their iPad and iPhones playing Roblox or something. And you're like, what is that generation gonna do with themselves, you know? So it's up to the bridgers, the ones in between, GA Flan, and I'm not saying that them specifically, but it's up to us to inspire people younger than us to inspire the people younger than them. So it's like rugby. Like in rugby, you don't kick the ball forward. At some point, you look behind you to see where your homie's at and you pass the ball
backwards.
It's not just about moving forward. It's about making sure that the younger generation behind you is also inspired to inspire the younger generation behind them.
When exactly did you open Estrellita?
We opened in August of 2020. So exactly 5 years ago to the day. I think we opened on August 18th.
Oh, wow.
So it's August 13th, so almost 5 years ago to the day.
Why open Estrellita during the pandemic?
We didn't want to open Estrellita during the pandemic. We actually started looking for spaces in 2017. My partner's family started migrating here to the South, I want to say in 2007. Okay. And we always came here around 2012, actually maybe even sooner, maybe 2002. They were here for a while. When we came down here, we noticed that, you know, Filipino restaurants were sparse. And so that was like, well, you know, I think it was like Steve Jobs or one of those big tech guys were like, if you want to be successful, find the void and fill it. And then if you fill the void, like that's, you know, like they'll come. Like you're providing something that didn't exist before. My partner Walter was like, we need to open up a Filipino restaurant. So in 2017, we started the search for a restaurant space. And we went from here and we kind of went all around and then we ended up back at this space. But in 2018, we ended up signing a lease. And then it took about 1.5 years to build the space out because the space as you see it was just a box. There was one 4-foot hood, like this big, a hood system that vents the air out. The hood vent.
Hood vent, sorry.
And the landlord was like, we're hoping that you can work with what you have here. And we came in and I was like, this hood vent is only 4 feet. I'm like, we're Filipinos. We fry a lot of stuff. Lechon kawali, you know what I mean? Chicken chicharron. So we're like, we need 2 times that.
Yeah.
So we actually had to build the space out. And this particular space didn't have mechanicals, electrical, and plumbing.
Wow.
So not only did we have to basically create everything in the space, we had to go back because we even went to the historical district to try and find the old mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, because there was a big fire in this area. A fire of it, you know, history. It's like a huge fire went rampant through Atlanta. And a lot of the documents were burned or what have you. We couldn't find any history on this particular building. And this is a historic building, believe it or not.
Wow.
So we actually had to dial back and we had to do all of the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. And that kind of was a lot of work, more work than we had anticipated. So we didn't plan on opening during the pandemic. It just took that long to get permitting, mechanicals, electricals, plumbing, get all that stuff permitted, and then move on to the other things. We had a little bit of an issue with some of the walls in here that required remediation. And so that took another 3 months to address. So we opened in 2020 because we were planning to open in March of 2020, but then the pandemic happened where the city, everything shut down in I think April, as we were going for our final inspections, where they come in and they say, okay, final inspection, okay, and then this is your occupancy. You can have 22 people in here, great. Well, then the city shut down. And I don't know if you know this, but I think that the Super Bowl was happening the following year. So 2021, the Super Bowl happened here.
Yeah.
And so the city was already dealing with a lot of permitting for this huge event that was gonna come up. So we didn't actually get our permitting done until August, after they shut down. And then the city started ramping up, doing their thing with permitting and stuff like that. So it wasn't by design that we opened during the pandemic. And trust me, we were like, hey, do you think that we can get out of this lease? This is a natural pandemic that we don't have control over. And they're like, no, you're already bound, you're tied in. So you guys got to keep going. And so we did. But it was scary. It was very scary because then you had social distancing. So you're like, my space is already only 22 people inside. I can only see 11 people in this restaurant and expect to make my rent. And it was tough because, prior to 2020, we didn't have anyone really on payroll except for me, right? Because I was designing the space, I was doing our website and stuff like that. So when it came to getting any kind of relief from the government or the state, we didn't qualify for it.
Wow.
So, and what was crazy is we went to the FDA and we're like, hey, we need help here. We're taking on water here. And they were like, we understand that there's a pocket of businesses that opened up that can't qualify for it because they didn't have payroll before. And unfortunately, those businesses, and maybe they didn't really think about that. Yeah. Those particular businesses kind of got a little overlooked. So we really, really, really had to dig in our heels and just try to find it. We had to pivot several times in order to find that sweet spot. So it wasn't by design that we wanted to. It was just by default. Yeah.
But it worked out though.
It did. And you know what? It's always like when you have that traumatic experience, or like say you're on vacation and you have something spontaneous happen, right? Yeah. That's what makes the story so interesting, right? It's like, that's the ones for the books. Yeah. That's the stuff that movies are made of. If I made a movie, it would be so compelling because you're like, oh my gosh, there's this struggle that happens, and then you have the rise like the phoenix from the ashes. So in every story, there's always a silver lining. You just got to keep trucking. And that's what we did.
What did winning the Michelin Bib Gourmand mean to you and your team?
So I got to the red carpet, and it was an invite-only event.
Yeah, of course.
And then Walter went up and said, oh, we're Estrellita. They were signing everybody in. And then they you had 2 lanes. One was for media, one was for the restaurateurs. And then all of a sudden they were ushering us to a place to get our picture taken. And I'm like, this is interesting. Like, I don't know if anyone else is doing this. Like, why are they doing this? But I'm very intuitive. So, I ended up meeting all of our friends inside, like 7 Fingers Baked Goods at the inaugural Michelin award ceremony. He was there. They had his ube cheesecake. Barangay was there. He was another one. Oh man, his food was a bangings. He was there slinging some food as well. So they actually had a lot of Filipinos that were representing the cuisine and doing like small plates for the whole congregation.
Yeah, wow.
So they ushered us in, took pictures, and then they ushered us over to another person that then took more pictures. And then I saw all my friends and they were like, hey, so, like, how are you guys doing? I'm like, I go, I don't know. I think something weird just happened. I was like, I feel like they ushered me in front of a camera. I was like, I don't know if that means something, but I didn't really see anybody else being ushered in front of a camera. I'm like, this is, and I started feeling like something might happen, but then I'm just like, oh no, that's just weird, That's just me hoping, right? That's me being hopeful that this is something. So during the inaugural, during the ceremony, people were coming up to the stage. I ended up being like, I'm gonna duck out and get us some more drinks, chef. So I went out, I'm like getting more drinks. I stopped by the bathroom, got more drinks, and then hightailed it back in. And Walter's like, you just missed it, you missed it. All the recommendations are gone, you missed that. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, it's fine. And then the next category was the bib category. And so they started ranting off all of the winners. And then it was five restaurants on one page, this one, and you never knew when it was going to end. You're like, okay, it's just 5 Bib Gourmands, great. Then they went to the next page and it was blank, and then the names would pop up, right? So all the 5 names popped up. Then it went to the next page that was blank, and then that's when they announced us, Estrellita.
Wow.
And everyone was like, what? And I literally was so shocked, because it wasn't something that I had anticipated would ever happen. Although I spoke about it, I'm like, the Michelin inspectors are in town. We have to always we always put our best foot forward, but they're here, they're anonymous. You don't know if they're in the restaurant.
Exactly,
so you gotta be on your P's and Q's, period. So when they announced our name, I literally sat there like stunned. Like, I think I was in shock. Like, I was just in shock. And then Walter wasn't even paying attention. I think that he has bad hearing in one ear. So, Chef Stubbs was like, what? So I just sat there and I was like, oh my gosh. And I just started crying. Because in my mind, I was like, wow, we went through all of those struggles, and then we just got an award that's, basically the working man's star. So a bib gourmand is basically, it holds the standards of the Michelin stars.
Yeah.
However, it's at an affordable price point. So it's the working man's star, right? It just means like you got those higher standards, and it was definitely for the crew. When that happened, tears. And then I immediately text messaged everyone. We did it, we got a bib. And for 3 days, I think that I just kind of drove around kind of stunned. Like, it wasn't really sinking in that this was, it's an award that's in the culinary industry. It's very prestigious. And I just think I drove around like stunned and shocked for like 3 days. Like, did this really just happen? And I was replaying it and I was like, I can't believe this happened. But whenever we came back, we're like, oh my gosh, we did it. Like, that's crazy. One of our managers at the time was at a friend's house, because of course we're all in the industry. They're all watching it on YouTube. And he was like, when that happened, he's like, I just lit that cigarette and I went outside and I just started smoking that cigarette. Like, and I was like, hell yeah. You know what I mean? Like, because we kind of are the outliers. You know what I mean? We weren't born in Atlanta, but we came here with a vision to share our culture with the world. And so it was surreal. It was one of the most shocking moments of my life.
Wow.
Yeah. And to this day, I'm like, wow, it's crazy.
It was unexpected, but you spoke it into existence.
Well, you know what? I shared with my uncle, who had just passed this year, but I shared with my uncle. I'm like, Uncle Barry, I'm like, the Michelin Guide is in Atlanta. I was like, and there's a possibility that, we can't get a star because that's just crazy. You're talking about tweezers, and you're talking about smears, and you're talking about like these types, little like, dots of, chutney and stuff like that. I'm like, we don't do that. But we have a shot at the bib. And he was like, well, that's good. I hope you do that. And I think that, and that's another thing with, manifesting, right?
Exactly.
Put it out in the universe. Always speak your goals and your ambitions and your affirmations, and speak it into existence. And I think that that's kind of a little bit of what we did whenever we had the Bib Gourmand. And what's funny is that a lot of people are like, did you know when they were here? And I'm like, no, but there was this one time. And I actually posted it on our Instagram. So one time we had 3 people come in. They sat at a foretop, And all of a sudden, like, I don't know if you know, the kitchen is so small, it's like a food truck, right? So we do a lot of volume out of a kitchen the size of a food truck. And they ordered 3 snappers,
Wow.
but we only had like 4 fryers. And as Filipinos, we're frying lumpia, we're frying lechon kawali, we're frying fried chicken,
Yes.
we're frying chicken skins. So if you order 3 fish and you're trying to plate them at the same time, well, we're gonna back up on all this other stuff. So that dance was crazy. And I was like, maybe this is Michelin testing us if we can kind of like pull this off, because they know that they're gonna take up 3 fryers and everything else is gonna be kind of
Delayed.
or maybe they might know, like, yeah, everything else might be delayed.
Yeah.
So I'm like, maybe this is the Michelin moment. And so I looked at Walter and I go, I think Michelin's here. I just feel it. And he's like, really? Why? I go, I don't know. I go, we just got 3 fishes. There's a single guy at the foretop over there facing the kitchen. There's 3 people over here. I feel like this might be a Michelin moment. He's like, really? And I was like, he's like, oh, I was like, well, so let's just be on our P's and Q's.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a funny story of maybe it's Michelin. Not Maybelline, but Michelin.
Michelin.
Yeah, maybe it's Michelin.
Which dish best represents Estrellita's story?
I would say what chef built the concept on was his beefsteak.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, his beefsteak. And you know what's funny is before we opened the restaurant, he has 3 sisters. They did, like, the family did a beefsteak contest between all 4 siblings. So this is how much passion they have in their beefsteak, because all of them do something a little different with their beefsteak. I don't know if I should say this, but Walter didn't win. The younger sister before him, so there's 3 sisters. The youngest sister won. But you know, all of this, the significant others like did a blind tasting, and the nieces and nephews did a blind tasting, and yeah, so they did a beefsteak cook-off. But it would have been the beefsteak. Unfortunately, we don't serve that right now on our menu, but as soon as we get a bigger space, that's going to be one of the first items that chef is going to bring back, because his is banging. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that that's what he built this concept on, because that's what it was. He was like, I'm going to get a food truck and I'm going to call it Bong's Beefsteak Hut. And I'm like, who's Bong? Your name is Walter.
Who's Bong?
Who is Bong? So, Bong's Beefsteak Truck. And I'm like,
It sounds Filipino.
I mean, and that's the thing, like, we always double up on the names, like, you know, so I guess he wanted to make it super Filipino because Walt wouldn't sound good.
Walter, yeah. And everyone has like a Tito Bong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And everyone has a Tito Bong or a Tito Boy.
Yeah.
So he's like, Bong's Beefsteak Truck. And I'm like, okay. So I would say it would have been the beefsteak. And in the first 2 years of our existence, it was beefsteak and everyone loved it. But right now, I would say the one dish that has withstood the test of time and withstood the pivots in our menu is the lechon kawali.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the lechon kawali has lived on our menu since the day we opened, and it has survived all of our pivots over the past 5 years. And the pork adobo is also award-winning. You know, we do the Adobo Tasting League every year. We're trying to do it every year. The Adobo Tasting League. The judge's choice has evaded Walter several years, but he always gets people's choice. But you know, we always have a panel of judges, whether it's 3 to 5 people. That award has evaded him, but people's choice, he's kind of nailed that one every year. So the pork adobo is amazing, and the lechon kawali that we serve now. Beefsteak, as soon as we get a bigger space, come through and have that, because it's going to be off the hook.
What's been the biggest challenge in running a Filipino restaurant in the South?
Tableside education.
Table set it.
Yeah, it's not a challenge, but I invite the challenge, because I always make sure that our front of house staff always knows the history behind our food, because every person that sits down at our table that isn't Filipino, that's an opportunity to influence them, inspire them, make them so excited about the food that they just consumed that they go out and find another restaurant to consume more Filipino food at. So I don't want to say it's a challenge, but I think that educating the history of our culture and our food is very important. You know, talking about how Spain influenced our food is important. Talking about how China influenced our food. Lumpia, it's probably the egg rolls. They probably, influenced that heavily. You know, I think that's important. So I think that it would be teaching people that are not Filipino our culture and cuisine. That's the challenge. That should be the challenge that sits in everyone's mind when they are sitting at their pop-ups. Like, this person might not know about my food. They might not know about my culture. They might not know about ube.
No.
What is ube? You know, it's not just a purple dessert. No, it's native to the Philippines. It's a purple yam that's rooted in the ground. It's kind of like a sweet potato, but it's not. It's nuttier.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of important facts that need to be told.
Exactly.
So I would say educating outsiders.
What's your vision for Estrellita over the next 5 years?
You always have to be kind of like envisioning something in order to keep your like pushing towards a goal, right? Like, you know, whether it was for me, it was like, you know, having a Filipino food drink, then morphing it into a nonprofit. You always have to set yourself a goal to kind of get to. My partner and our newest partner, Aaron, we always sit there and think about like how can we grow from here. So within the next 5 years, I'm hoping that we can keep this space because it has become an anchor, a destination spot. But definitely acquiring a larger space so that we can accommodate more people that are interested in learning about Filipino food. You can only do so much in 523 square feet. You know, we're using banquettes, we're using tops of refrigerators.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're trying to find every place that we can stuff things because it's such a small space. So I would say expanding our footprint, doubling our footprint is definitely one of those things that I see happening within the next 5 years. And then Chef really loves the in-house concept that we changed to in January. So I think that he wants to try and duplicate this particular business in other units, whether it's here in Georgia or it's migrating to the south to Florida where my mom is. I can see us hopefully opening up in other areas, a concept that's simple, kind of fast on the take, fast on the pickup. But we definitely want to have a restaurant. Chef wants to have a restaurant that has a bar. He wants a full bar. He wants people to pony up at a bar and have their cocktail, you know, their rum cocktail, and sit there and talk to the bartender about their day and have, you know, a whole bar vibe. He kind of likes that whole feel of being able to roll into a space and actually having a full bar. And it's funny because that was an argument that we had when we opened this space. He's like, we need to have a liquor license. I'm like, for $5,000 a year, do you think that we need to have a liquor license? We're only 523 square feet. Let's just make it turn and burn. No, Hope, no. How would you want to experience Filipino food if you could? I would want to be able to have my San Miguel. I'd want to be able to have my beer. I'd want to be able to have tanduay. You and I would enjoy a space more. And he pitched it to me this way. The liquor license is advertising.
It is. And drinking is part of being Filipino.
He's like, yeah. So he's like, just look at it as we spend $5,000 on advertising because it does pull in a certain demographic, you know? There are people that just enjoy pollutant, love having their beer with their food, or love having a nice neat glass of, you know, double rum with, you know, their dessert or something. Yeah. I mean, and he was right. He was like, you know, I was like, you know what, you're right. Because if you didn't have, in Atlanta, if you don't have a liquor license, you can't do BYOB. In order to do a bring your own beer, you have to have a beer and wine license. Yeah. So he's like, we can get a beer and wine license, but you and I, we like alcohol, we like tequila. So I was glad that he convinced me of that. And I think that it is money well spent because having that liquor license lends itself to a different type of atmosphere and mood. Exactly. Especially when night falls and twilight is out and people are like, and then, you know, you've got the LEDs in the ceiling. It just lends itself to a different vibe. And we definitely wanted to hit on all 6 cylinders when it came to creating a vibe. Even though we're small, my mom says we're small but mighty.
Get it?
So, yeah, I mean, that's that.
Lumpia or adobo?
Adobo.
Favorite Filipino comfort food?
Bulalo.
Bulalo.
Or nilaga. Bulalo is basically nilaga with a piece of corn in it. So I feel like the South likes bulalo because it's just corn. It's like what we do. So bulalo, nilaga, I would say that would be my comfort.
One word to describe Atlanta's Filipino food scene.
I want to be like, I don't know, I want to say compounding because that's what my vision for it would be. Like just compounding, just building, like creating, like just expanding.
Expanding, okay.
Expanding, expansion.
For the restaurant, dream Filipino chef collab.
I would say Lord Maynard out of California.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because he tells his story just from the streets and how his intention wasn't to get into the Filipino food scene, but he came here and he just started doing what he wants and doing what he do. His story resonated with Walt's story a bit. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't his intention, but he came here and he started just like really grinding it out in the industry with his food. So I would say a dream collaboration would be Lord Maynard.
Lord Maynard. Well, that is it for the questions today, Hope. I appreciate all the insight you provided us here and your energy and your hope for Atlanta's Filipino community to grow. Thank you so much again for your time and for inviting us over here to your restaurant.